The phone buzzed on Sarah Montgomery's desk at precisely 11:47 p.m., and she knew without looking that it was him, calling from somewhere halfway across the world where the sun was probably just rising over whatever city he'd landed in this time. "Tell me you're not still at the gallery." Adrian Parker's voice came through warm and slightly amused, carrying that distinctive rumble that made her stomach flip even after 3 months of these calls. "Tell me you're not calling me from another business dinner," Sarah shot back, leaning back in her chair and looking at the half-finished painting on the easel across from her desk. The gallery had closed hours ago, but she'd stayed late working on a piece for the upcoming exhibition. "Guilty. Although I stepped out onto the balcony specifically to talk to you without my CFO giving me looks." She could hear the smile in his voice, could picture him loosening his tie the way he always did, when he was ready to be done with formal occasions. "How's the piece coming?" Sarah glanced at the canvas, at the swirls of blue and gold she'd been layering for the past week. "It's getting there. I think I'm overthinking it. You always say that, and then you create something incredible." The ease of their conversation still surprised her sometimes. They'd met in the most mundane way possible, through a mutual friend's Instagram post about an art exhibition in New York. Sarah had commented something about the use of negative space. Adrian had replied with an insightful observation about the artist's technique, and somehow that had turned into a direct message conversation that lasted 4 hours. When he'd asked for her number, she'd given it without hesitation, which wasn't like her at all. That first phone call had been awkward, both of them dancing around who they were and what they did. She'd learned he was in international trade and investment, which sounded impressive but vague. He'd been more interested in her work as a gallery curator and artist in Seattle, asking questions that showed he actually understood art beyond just expensive pieces to hang in corporate offices. It was 2 weeks before she'd Googled him. Adrian Parker, 32, CEO of Parker Global Enterprises, with a net worth that made her physically sit back from her laptop screen. Billionaire. The word had felt unreal, especially when attached to the man who'd spent an hour the night before listening to her rant about the difficulty of finding good cobalt blue paint. "You still there?" Adrian's voice pulled her back to the present. "Yeah, sorry. Long day. Where are you this time?" "Singapore. Meetings all day tomorrow, then I fly to Tokyo on Thursday." Sarah did the mental math. Singapore was 16 hours ahead, so it's almost noon there, just past. "I have about 20 minutes before I need to go back in and pretend to care about quarterly projections in the Asian market." He paused. "I'd rather keep talking to you." Her heart did that stupid flutter thing again. "Your shareholders might disagree." "My shareholders can manage without me for a few more minutes." His voice softened. "I miss you. This is the longest we've gone without seeing each other." It had been 3 weeks. In the early days of whatever this was between them, Adrian had made it to Seattle twice in 1 month, and she'd flown to New York for a long weekend, where they'd spent 12 straight hours walking through every major museum in Manhattan, talking until their voices went hoarse. But his schedule had gotten increasingly demanding, and her gallery had a major exhibition coming up that required her constant attention. "I miss you too," Sarah admitted, surprising herself with the honesty. She wasn't usually the type to be vulnerable, especially not with someone she'd only known for 3 months, someone she'd only actually spent 8 days with in person. And yet, "I'm coming to Seattle next week. I don't care what's on my calendar, I'm clearing it." "Adrian, you don't have to do that." "I want to. I need to see you. This phone thing is killing me." The frustration in his voice was evident. "I want to take you to dinner. I want to see your face when you talk about art instead of just hearing it in your voice. I want to actually be with you." Sarah felt her throat tighten. "Next week is the exhibition opening. It's going to be chaos. Then I'll come and help. I can carry things. I'm very good at carrying things." She laughed despite herself. "You're a billionaire CEO. I don't think carrying paintings is in your job description." "It is if it means spending time with you." He said it so simply, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Sarah, I know this is complicated. I know the distance is ridiculous and my schedule is insane, but I can't stop thinking about you. Every meeting I'm in, every flight I take, you're the first person I want to talk to about it." Her chest felt tight. "I feel the same way, which is crazy because we barely know each other. We talk for hours every day. I think I know you better than I've known anyone." His voice dropped lower, more intimate. "I know you arrange your books by color even though you pretend it's by subject. I know you drink your coffee black except on Sundays when you make yourself something elaborate with foam art. I know you hate the sound of people chewing but you're too polite to say anything. I know when you're nervous you touch the pendant on your necklace, the one your grandmother gave you. I know you, Sarah." She was touching the pendant. She dropped her hand. "That's not fair." "What's not fair?" "Being perfect from 3,000 miles away." He laughed, that deep, genuine laugh she'd only heard a handful of times. "I'm far from perfect. Ask anyone who works for me. I'm demanding and impatient and I work too much. So do I. Then we're a matched set." She could hear voices in the background, someone calling his name. "I have to go, but Sarah, next week, I promise. Even if it's just for a day, I'm coming." "Okay," she said softly. "I'd really like that." After they hung up, Sarah sat in the quiet gallery for a long time, looking at her painting without really seeing it. She'd dated before, had relationships that lasted years, but nothing had ever felt like this. Nothing had ever been this intense, this consuming, and they hadn't even kissed yet. They'd held hands walking through the Museum of Modern Art. He'd put his arm around her shoulders when it started raining in Central Park. But they'd been taking it slow, building something on a foundation of conversations and connections before adding physical attraction to the mix. Except the physical attraction was definitely there. She thought about the way he looked at her, the way his eyes tracked her movements when she got excited talking about a painting. She thought about how badly she'd wanted to kiss him goodbye at the airport, and how she'd chickened out at the last second, settling for a hug that lasted probably 10 seconds too long to be casual. Her phone buzzed again. A text this time. "I'm terrible at waiting. Just wanted you to know." Sarah smiled at the screen, typing back. "Me too." The week crawled by in a blur of preparation. The exhibition was a showcase of emerging Pacific Northwest artists, months of work coming together in carefully curated arrangements. Sarah spent 14-hour days at the gallery, coordinating with artists, finalizing placements, dealing with lighting and catalogs and 1,000 tiny details that somehow all mattered desperately. Adrian called every day, sometimes twice. Once from a hotel room in Tokyo at 2 in the morning his time because he couldn't sleep. Once from his car between meetings in Hong Kong. Once from the airport in Shanghai while waiting for a delayed flight, and they'd talked for 3 hours straight, about everything and nothing. He told her about the pressure of running a company his father had built, about the weight of all those employees depending on his decisions. She told him about her own father, an accountant who'd never understood her need to create, who died thinking she'd wasted her art degree. "He would have been proud of you now," Adrian had said with such certainty that she'd almost believed it. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do. You're brilliant at what you do, Sarah. This gallery, this exhibition, it's incredible. You've built something real." Says the man who runs a multi-billion-dollar company. "Money isn't everything. You create beauty. You give artists a platform. That matters just as much, probably more. She'd had to bite her lip to keep from saying something too revealing, too vulnerable. Something like, "I think I'm falling for you," which seemed insane after 3 months of mostly phone calls. On Thursday, 3 days before the exhibition opening, Adrian texted her a photo. It was his view from an airplane window, clouds stretched out like a white blanket below, early morning sun turning everything golden. "On my way. Can't wait to see you." Sarah stared at the photo for a solid minute, her heart racing. He was really coming. After weeks of just voices and screens, he was going to be here, real and solid and present. She immediately panicked about what to wear. Her best friend and assistant curator, Jennifer, found her standing in front of her closet at 7 in the morning on Friday, clothes scattered across every surface of her bedroom. "He's seen you in person before," Jennifer pointed out, picking up a blue dress and examining it critically. "He already likes you. That was different. That was casual museum dates and coffee. This is my gallery, my exhibition, and I look like I haven't slept in a week because I haven't. You look beautiful. You always look beautiful, and he's clearly crazy about you." Jennifer handed her the blue dress. "Wear this. It matches your eyes and makes you look like the competent, artistic genius you are." Sarah took the dress, grateful for the decisiveness. What if this is a mistake? What if the distance makes this impossible? What if we're building something that can't actually exist in real life? "Sarah Montgomery, you are spiraling. Take a breath." Jennifer waited until Sarah actually did. "You like him. He clearly likes you. You're both adults. Just see what happens." The dress did look good. Sarah paired it with simple jewelry and boots practical enough for a day on her feet at the gallery. She did her makeup carefully, going for natural but polished, and tried not to check her phone every 30 seconds for updates. Adrian landed at 11. She knew because he texted her from the plane, then from the car, then from his hotel. He was staying at the Four Seasons downtown, which made sense for someone like him but felt surreal to Sarah, whose apartment was a modest one-bedroom in Capitol Hill. Just settling in. "What time should I come by?" Sarah looked around the gallery. Controlled chaos. Artists arriving with last-minute adjustments. The caterer arguing about table placement with Jennifer. A lighting technician on a ladder making adjustments to the track lighting. Maybe around 3. "Things are a bit crazy right now. I can come now and help. You just got off a 15-hour flight. Go rest." "I've been resting on the plane. I want to see you." Her stomach flipped. "Okay, come now, but don't say I didn't warn you about the chaos." He arrived 40 minutes later, and Sarah saw him before he saw her. He walked through the gallery door in dark jeans and a gray sweater, casual but somehow still looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. His dark hair was slightly mussed, probably from the flight, and he had the kind of strong, clean-shaven jawline that belonged in movies. When his eyes found her across the room, his entire face changed, lit up with a smile that made her forget how to breathe. Sarah walked toward him, weaving between pedestals and paintings, suddenly aware of how public this moment was with at least a dozen people in the gallery. But Adrian closed the distance between them and pulled her into a hug that lifted her slightly off her feet, and she stopped caring who was watching. "Hi," he said into her hair, not letting go. "Hi yourself." She breathed in the scent of him, something clean and slightly spicy. "How was the flight? Long, worth it?" He pulled back just enough to look at her, his hand still on her waist. "You look incredible. You're delirious from jet lag. I'm really not." His eyes were the same warm brown she remembered, but seeing them in person after weeks apart made her realize how much she'd missed this, the actual physical presence of him. Someone dropped something across the gallery with a loud crash, and they both jumped apart. Sarah laughed, suddenly self-conscious. "Welcome to opening preparation. It's always like this. Put me to work." And he meant it. For the next 4 hours, Adrian Parker, Billionaire CEO, helped hang paintings, moved pedestals, carried boxes, and charmed every single artist and staff member who crossed his path. He lifted heavy frames without complaint, held things in place while Sarah adjusted lighting, and made thoughtful comments about piece placement that showed he'd actually been paying attention during all their conversations about curatorial theory. Jennifer pulled Sarah aside at one point, eyes wide. "Okay, I looked him up because I couldn't remember where I'd heard his name. Sarah. He's worth billions, with a B, and he's here moving furniture for you. I know, it's weird, right? It's romantic as hell is what it is. The way he looks at you." "Girl," Jennifer shook her head, "don't screw this up." "Helpful, thank you." By 7, the gallery was as ready as it was going to be. The opening was tomorrow at 6, and Sarah was exhausted but satisfied. The space looked amazing, every piece positioned to catch the light just right, creating a flow that would guide visitors through a narrative of Pacific Northwest artistic vision. Adrian found her standing in the center of the gallery, doing a final visual sweep. "It's beautiful. You should be proud." "I am, tired but proud." She turned to him. "Thank you for today. You didn't have to do all that. I wanted to. Besides, it was fascinating seeing you work. You have this look you get when you're solving a problem, completely focused." He moved closer. "It's very attractive." Sarah felt heat rise to her cheeks. Flattery. Honesty. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture casual but intimate. "Have dinner with me tonight, please. Somewhere quiet where we can actually talk without people interrupting." "I look like I've been hauling art around all day." "You look perfect. Say yes, Sarah." She said yes. They walked to a small Italian place 6 blocks from the gallery, nowhere fancy, but the food was excellent and the lighting was low and warm. Adrian held her hand the entire walk, their fingers intertwined, and it felt natural, easy, like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. Over pasta and wine, they talked the way they always did, conversation flowing without effort. But there was a new energy between them now, something charged and anticipating. Sarah was hyper-aware of how close he was sitting, how his knee pressed against hers under the table, how his eyes kept dropping to her mouth when she spoke. "Tell me honestly," Sarah said, swirling wine in her glass. "Does this feel as crazy to you as it does to me? The distance. All of it. We barely know each other in person, but I talk to you more than anyone else in my life. I know things about you I don't know about friends I've had for years, but we've spent maybe 10 actual days together total." Adrian set down his fork, giving her his full attention. "It is crazy. I've never done anything like this before. I don't do long distance. I barely do relationships, if I'm being honest. My schedule doesn't allow for it, and most people don't understand the demands of my work." He paused. "But with you, Sarah, I can't seem to care about the logistics. I just know that talking to you is the best part of my day every day. I know that being here now feels more right than anything has in a long time. I feel the same way, which terrifies me." "Why?" "Because what if we're just good at phone calls? What if we're building this up and the reality can't match?" She met his eyes. "What if the distance eventually breaks this before we figure out what it is?" Adrian reached across the table, taking her hand. "Or what if the distance is actually making this stronger? We can't rely on physical attraction or convenience. We had to build actual connection first. We had to choose to keep talking, keep sharing, keep being interested in each other's lives. That's not nothing, Sarah." "No," she agreed softly. "It's not nothing. I'm not saying this will be easy. My schedule is only getting more demanding. I have projects launching in 3 different countries over the next 6 months. I'll be traveling constantly." His thumb traced patterns on her palm. "But I want to try. I want to figure this out with you, if you want that too." Sarah's heart was pounding. This was real. He was offering her something real, not just flirtation and phone calls, but actual commitment to navigate this complicated situation together. "I want that. I'm scared, but I want that." His smile was relieved and warm. "Good. Because I flew 15 hours to tell you that in person, and it would have been really awkward if you'd said no." She laughed, the tension breaking. "You could have just asked on the phone." "No, I couldn't. This conversation needed to happen face to face." He squeezed her hand. "Speaking of which, we should probably talk about the other thing." "What other thing?" "The fact that I've been wanting to kiss you since the moment I walked into your gallery today, and I'm trying to be respectful about timing, but it's getting difficult." Sarah's breath caught. "Oh, that thing." "Yes, that thing." His voice dropped lower, intimate. "So I'm asking, can I kiss you, Sarah?" Instead of answering, she leaned across the table and closed the distance between them herself. His lips met hers warm and sure, and everything else fell away. The restaurant, the other diners, her exhaustion, all of it disappeared into the singularity of this kiss, this moment. His hand came up to cup her face, gentle but firm, and she melted into it, into him. When they finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "That was worth waiting 3 months for." "Yeah," Sarah managed. "It really was." They stayed at the restaurant until closing, reluctant to end the evening. When they finally stepped outside, the Seattle night was cool and slightly misty, typical March weather. Adrian immediately shrugged off his jacket and draped it around her shoulders. "I'm fine," Sarah protested, but she pulled the jacket tighter, breathing in his scent. "Indulge me. I'm old-fashioned about some things." He took her hand again as they walked slowly back toward the gallery where her car was parked. "How long are you staying?" Sarah asked, dreading the answer. "I have to fly back Sunday afternoon. Meetings Monday morning that I absolutely cannot miss." He looked frustrated. "I'm sorry, I wish I had longer." "No, I get it. And honestly, this weekend is going to be insane with the exhibition. I probably won't be great company anyway. I'll take whatever time you have." They reached her car, and Adrian turned her to face him, his hands resting on her waist. "Tomorrow night after the opening, even if it's midnight, I want to see you. And Sunday morning, whenever you wake up, I want to take you to breakfast. Deal, deal." She looked up at him, this impossibly handsome, successful man who was looking at her like she was the only thing that mattered. "Adrian, I need you to know something. Your money, your company, all of that, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's impressive and I'm proud of what you've built, but that's not why I'm here. I know that. It's one of the reasons I'm crazy about you." He kissed her forehead, tender and sweet. "You never once asked me about business deals or what it's like to be wealthy. You asked me what my favorite painting is and whether I prefer mountains or ocean. You see me, not my bank account. For the record, what is your favorite painting? Starry Night. Basic, I know, but there's something about the way Van Gogh saw light and movement that feels alive." He smiled. "And I prefer mountains, but I'm willing to be convinced about the ocean. Seattle has both. Another point in its favor." He kissed her properly this time, slow and deep, until Sarah's knees felt weak. "I should let you go get some sleep. Big day tomorrow, right? Sleep. I should do that." She didn't move, and neither did he. Eventually, they managed to separate with promises to text when they got home. Sarah drove through the quiet city streets feeling like she was floating, replaying every moment of the evening in her mind. When she finally climbed into bed at midnight, her phone buzzed. "Thank you for tonight. For taking a chance on this ridiculous situation. Can't wait to see you tomorrow." Sarah smiled at her screen, typing back. Thank you for coming all this way. Sleep well. Already planning what I'll dream about. She fell asleep with her phone still in her hand, feeling happier than she could remember being in a long time. The exhibition opening was everything Sarah had hoped for and more. By 6:30, the gallery was packed with collectors, art enthusiasts, critics, and curious locals. The artists whose work was featured mingled with guests, and Sarah watched with satisfaction as red dots appeared on the wall labels, indicating sales. Adrian had arrived early, looking devastating in a dark suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. But he didn't hover or demand her attention. Instead, he worked the room like the experienced executive he was, chatting with artists and collectors, asking intelligent questions about technique and inspiration. She caught him at one point explaining the symbolism in a particularly abstract piece to an elderly collector, gesturing with his wine glass, completely in his element. Jennifer appeared at Sarah's elbow. He's making sales for us. That couple over there, the ones looking at the landscape series. He convinced them to buy 3 pieces. He what? Apparently he knows something about investment art. Who knew billionaires could be useful? Jennifer grinned. Sarah, this is going amazingly. The Times critic has been here for an hour taking notes. We've sold 18 pieces already. This is a huge success. Sarah felt a wave of relief and pride wash over her. Months of work validated. I couldn't have done it without you. True, but you can't get rid of me that easily. I expect a raise. Jennifer squeezed her arm. Go take a breath. Talk to your man. You've been working the room for 3 hours. Sarah found Adrian examining a series of photographs, contemplative. She slipped her hand into his, and he immediately squeezed back without looking away from the images. These are incredible, he said quietly. The way she captures light in urban spaces, finding beauty in infrastructure. It's remarkable. That's Maya Chen. She's one of our emerging talents, only 25 and already developing such a distinct vision. You have a good eye for talent. Now he looked at her and his expression was soft, proud. This whole night, Sarah, you created something special here. Thank you for being here, for helping. Nowhere else I'd rather be. He glanced around, then lowered his voice. How much longer do you have to stay? At least another hour. We're doing short speeches at 8, thanking sponsors and artists. Then I need to make sure cleanup is organized. She felt guilty. I'm sorry, I know this isn't exactly exciting for you. Are you kidding? I'm watching you be brilliant in your element. I'm having a great time. He kissed her temple, quick and casual, and Sarah's heart squeezed. Take your time. I'll be here. The speeches went well, Sarah managing to keep hers short and heartfelt despite her nerves about public speaking. When she mentioned the support of friends who'd helped make the night possible, her eyes found Adrian in the crowd, and he raised his glass slightly, just for her. By 10, the crowd had thinned to a manageable number of stragglers. Sarah's feet were killing her, and she desperately wanted to take off her heels, but she kept her professional smile in place as she said goodbye to the last few guests. Adrian materialized with her coat when the final person left. Come on, you're exhausted. I need to help clean up. Jennifer and the staff have it covered. She specifically told me to get you out of here before you started micromanaging. He draped her coat over her shoulders. There's a car waiting outside. A car? I'm kidnapping you, don't fight it. Too tired to argue, Sarah let him guide her out to where a black town car was indeed waiting. She sank into the leather seats gratefully. Where are we going? You'll see. They drove through downtown Seattle, eventually pulling up in front of the Four Seasons. Sarah gave Adrian a questioning look, but he just smiled mysteriously and helped her out of the car. The hotel lobby was elegant and quiet, a stark contrast to the noise and energy of the gallery. Instead of going to the elevators, Adrian led her to the restaurant. Except the restaurant was closed, lights dimmed, except for one table by the window set with candles and covered dishes. "Adrian, what is this? You haven't eaten all day except for those crackers and cheese cubes at the gallery, I noticed, so I arranged a late dinner." He pulled out her chair. "Humor me." Sarah sat, overwhelmed. The table was set perfectly, white linens and gleaming silverware, candles casting warm light. Through the windows, Seattle sparkled below them. A server appeared with champagne and appetizers, then discreetly vanished. Sarah looked at Adrian across the table, this man who'd rearranged his impossible schedule to be here, who'd helped carry paintings and charmed her artists, and now had somehow arranged a private dinner because he'd noticed she hadn't eaten. "This is too much," she said softly. "It's not nearly enough." He poured champagne for both of them. "You worked incredibly hard to make tonight happen. You deserve to celebrate properly. You're really good at this." "At what?" "Making me feel special. Important." She took a sip of champagne, the bubbles sharp and bright on her tongue. "I'm not used to it." Adrian's expression grew serious. "Then the men you've dated before were idiots. Sarah, you are special. You're talented and driven, and you care deeply about what you do. Watching you tonight, seeing how the artists trust you, how you've created this space for them to share their work, it was inspiring. You run a multi-billion-dollar company. I curate art shows. So, what I do is commerce. Important, sure, but at the end of the day, it's about money and markets. What you do creates beauty and meaning. You give artists opportunities to be seen. That matters." The food was excellent, course after course of perfectly prepared dishes that Sarah barely tasted because she was too focused on the man across from her. They talked about the exhibition, about his flight tomorrow, about plans for his next trip back to Seattle. "I'm thinking 2 weeks," Adrian said. 3 at the most. I can probably swing a long weekend." "I'll be here." Sarah paused. "I've been thinking, when does your schedule calm down?" "Is there an off-season for billionaire CEOs?" He laughed. "Not really. But I'm working on delegating more. I have good people running the regional offices. I just have a hard time letting go of control." "Shocking. You seem so laid back and carefree." "Watch it, or I'll start listing your control issues too." He reached across the table for her hand. "Seriously though, you're right that this travel schedule is unsustainable long term. I've been CEO for 5 years now, since my father retired. I spent that time proving I could handle it, building the company even bigger. But what's the point if I never have time for a life outside of work? Are you saying I'm worth restructuring your life for?" Sarah meant it teasingly, but Adrian's expression was intense. "Yes. I absolutely am saying that." Her breath caught. "We've known each other 3 months, and I've learned more about what I want in those 3 months than in years of casual dating. I want this, Sarah. I want you. I want to figure out how to make this work despite the distance and the complications. I want that too." She squeezed his hand. "But I'm scared. What if one of us gets tired of always saying goodbye? What if we can't ever sync up our schedules enough to actually build something real?" "Then we'll figure it out when we get there, but I'm not giving up without trying." He stood, moving around the table to her. "Dance with me." "There's no music." "Sure there is." He pulled out his phone, tapped something, and soft music filled the quiet restaurant. Then he held out his hand. "Sarah Montgomery, will you dance with me?" She let him pull her to her feet into his arms. They swayed slowly between the tables, her head resting on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. The song was something slow and romantic, piano and strings, and Sarah felt tears prick her eyes because this was perfect and temporary, and she already dreaded him leaving tomorrow. "Hey," Adrian said softly, tilting her face up. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. I don't want you to go. I don't want to go either, but I will come back. As often as I can, I will come back. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. We're going to make this work. She wanted to believe him. Standing there in his arms, Seattle glittering outside the windows, she let herself believe it. They left the hotel around midnight and Adrian walked her to her car in the parking garage. The goodbye was prolonged, both of them reluctant to separate. They kissed against her car door like teenagers until Sarah was breathless and dizzy. I'll see you tomorrow morning, Adrian promised. Breakfast at 9. I'll be there. One more kiss, long and deep, and then Sarah forced herself to get in her car and drive away. In her rearview mirror, she watched him standing there watching her go, hands in his pockets, and her heart ached. At home, she collapsed into bed still wearing her dress, too exhausted to change. Her phone buzzed almost immediately, made it back to the hotel. Missing you already. Tomorrow can't come fast enough. Sarah smiled, typing back with clumsy fingers. Same, thank you for tonight, for everything. Thank you for letting me be part of your success. Sleep well. Beautiful. She fell asleep still holding her phone, dreams full of dancing and champagne and brown eyes that saw her completely. Breakfast turned into brunch, which turned into walking around Pike Place Market holding hands and drinking coffee. Adrian bought her flowers from one of the stalls, a bright bouquet of tulips that made her laugh because they were so cheerful and unexpected. They watched the fish throwers, ate fresh donuts, and talked about everything and nothing. I have to leave for the airport at 3, Adrian said as they sat on a bench overlooking the water. My flight's at 5. Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder, watching the ferries cross the Sound. Back to New York. For 2 days, then London, then Mumbai. It's a nightmare schedule. Do you ever get tired of it? All the travel. Used to love it. The energy of different cities, sealing deals in person, building relationships across the globe. Lately, though, it just feels like time away from what matters. He kissed the top of her head. From who matters, sweet talker? Only for you. His arm tightened around her. Sarah, I meant what I said last night. I'm going to work on restructuring my schedule. It might take a few months, but I want to get to a place where I'm not always on a plane. I don't want you to change your whole life for me. I'm changing it for me too. I want time for a relationship, for a life outside of board meetings and merger negotiations. I want to wake up in the same city as the woman I'm falling for more than once a month. Sarah sat up to look at him. Falling for, Adrian met her eyes steadily. Yeah, falling for, rapidly. Is that okay? It's terrifying, she admitted. But yes, it's okay, because I'm falling too. His kiss was tender and thorough, unconcerned with the tourists passing by or the public setting. When they finally pulled apart, both smiling, Sarah felt something settle in her chest. This was real. They were really doing this. The drive to the airport was too short. Sarah parked in the departures area, ignoring the security guard waving her along, and turned to face Adrian. 2 weeks, she asked. Maybe less. I'll move things around. He cupped her face in his hands. Call you tonight, you better. I'm going to want detailed reports on the London weather and the quality of Mumbai street food. I'll take pictures of everything. Make you feel like you're there. I wish I was. She meant it. The idea of him on the other side of the world while she was here suddenly felt unbearable. Next time. I'll take you with me next time if you can get away. He kissed her once more, pouring everything into it. I have to go. I know. But it took another 5 minutes of kissing and murmured promises before he actually grabbed his bag from the back seat and got out of the car. Sarah watched him walk into the terminal, watched him turn at the door to wave one last time, and then he was gone. The drive back to her apartment felt lonely in a way it never had before. She kept reaching for her phone to text him, then remembering he was probably going through security. Her apartment felt empty and too quiet. Jennifer called that evening. "So, how was the rest of the weekend?" "Perfect and terrible. He's amazing and I'm crazy about him, and he just got on a plane to New York and I feel like I'm mourning something I barely have yet." Welcome to long-distance relationships. They're torture. "Super helpful, thanks. But," Jennifer continued, "if anyone can make it work, it's you too. Sarah, I saw how he looked at you at the opening. That man is completely gone for you, and you light up like a Christmas tree when he's around. That's worth fighting for." "Yeah. I just wish the fighting didn't involve quite so many time zones." Adrian called at 11 her time, early morning for him in New York. He was in a car heading to his office, exhausted from the red eye but determined to hear her voice. "Tell me about your day," he said. "Distract me from this traffic." So Sarah told him about cleaning up the gallery, about the review that appeared in the Times that morning praising the exhibition, about the artist who'd called her crying happy tears because she'd sold 4 pieces. Adrian listened and asked questions and sounded genuinely interested, even though he had to be running on fumes. "I'm proud of you," he said. "I know I already said that, but I am. Thank you for being there. It meant everything having you there. There's nowhere else I wanted to be." He yawned audibly. "Sorry, maybe not the most romantic response. Go to work. Make millions of dollars or whatever it is you do. Call me tonight, always." They fell into a rhythm over the next 2 weeks. Morning texts when he woke up, calls whenever his schedule allowed, photos of buildings and food and whatever struck him as interesting. Sarah sent him pictures of new pieces arriving at the gallery, her attempts at cooking dinner, the Seattle skyline at sunset. The conversations remained easy, intimate in ways that surprised her. He told her about difficult negotiations in London, about the pressure from board members who wanted faster expansion. She told him about artist drama, about her own paintings that she worked on late at night when the gallery was quiet, about her fears that she wasn't talented enough to show her own work publicly. "You're incredibly talented," Adrian said firmly, when she confessed that particular insecurity. "I've seen your paintings, Sarah. They're extraordinary. You're biased. I'm honest. There's a difference." She could hear him typing in the background, multitasking as usual. "Promise me you'll show me your new pieces when I'm back." "Maybe." "Sarah." "Fine, yes. But you have to be nice about them." "I'll be honest about them, which is better than nice." He flew back to Seattle 13 days after leaving, arriving on a Thursday evening with plans to stay until Sunday morning. Sarah picked him up from the airport, and the reunion was intense, both of them holding each other in the arrivals area like they'd been separated for months instead of less than 2 weeks. "I missed you," Adrian said into her hair. "So much. Missed you too." Sarah pulled back to look at him. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes, but his smile was genuine. "You look exhausted. Worth it. I moved 3 meetings and took a red-eye to get here a day early." He grabbed his bag with one hand, keeping the other locked with hers. "Take me somewhere, I don't care where. I just want to be with you." They ended up at her apartment, ordering Thai food and collapsing on her couch. Adrian pulled her against his side and they sat in comfortable silence, eating pad Thai straight from the containers. "This is nice," Adrian said eventually. "Just being here. Nothing fancy, just us. My apartment is about 1,000th the size of your hotel suite. I like your apartment, it's full of you. Your art on the walls, your books everywhere, that collection of sea glass on the windowsill. It tells your story." Sarah looked around, trying to see it through his eyes. Her space was small but carefully curated, full of color and light and the things she loved. "I've been thinking about getting a bigger place. The gallery is doing well enough that I could afford it." "Or," Adrian said carefully, You could think about spending more time in New York. Not permanently, I'm not suggesting that, but maybe we could explore what it would look like to split time between cities. She twisted to look at him. You want me to move to New York? No, that came out wrong. I want us to figure out how to be in the same place more often. Maybe that's me coming here more. Maybe that's you coming there sometimes. Maybe it's both. He set down his food, giving her his full attention. Sarah, I know it's early, but I can't keep doing this, seeing you once every 2 weeks for a few days. I want more. I want to fall asleep next to you and wake up with you. I want to know what you're like when you've had a bad day and need space. I want to integrate our lives, not just visit each other's lives. Sarah's heart was pounding. This was huge, too huge for 4 months of dating, but it also felt right, like the natural progression of what they'd been building. I want that too, but I can't leave the gallery. I've spent years building it. I'm not asking you to leave it. Jennifer could handle things for a week or two at a time, couldn't she? And I can keep coming here when I can. We figure it out together. You make it sound simple. The concept is simple. The execution is complicated, but I think we can do it if we both commit to trying. He took her hands. I'm all in, Sarah. I want this to work. Tell me you do too. I do. I'm terrified, but I do. She took a breath. Okay, let's try it. I'll talk to Jennifer about covering for me so I can come to New York. Maybe a month to start. Adrian's smile was brilliant. Yeah, you do that. For you? Yes. She kissed him. But you have to show me your apartment and take me to all your favorite places. Full access, Parker. Deal. Although fair warning, my apartment is embarrassingly large for one person and I'm usually not home enough to have favorite places. Then we'll find new favorites together. They spent the rest of the evening on her couch, talking through logistics. Adrian showed her his calendar, the maze of meetings and travel that made up the next 3 months. Sarah showed him the gallery schedule, the upcoming exhibitions that would need her full attention. They identified windows where she could come to New York, weekends where he could fly to Seattle. This is insane, Sarah said at one point, looking at all the coordination required. Completely insane, Adrian agreed. Want to stop? No, good, me neither. That night, Adrian stayed over for the first time and it felt momentous. Sarah lent him a spare toothbrush and they went through the strange intimacy of getting ready for bed together. She changed into sleep shorts and an old t-shirt, suddenly self-conscious, but Adrian just smiled and kissed her forehead before claiming the left side of her bed. You're a bed hog, aren't you? Sarah teased, climbing in next to him. Probably. Also, I'm told I sometimes talk in my sleep. And I wake up early. I steal all the blankets and my alarm goes off at 6. We sound extremely compatible. He pulled her close, her back to his chest, fitting together perfectly. This okay? More than okay. Sarah laced her fingers with his where they rested on her stomach. Adrian. Yeah, thank you for fighting for this, for making the effort. Thank you for being worth the effort. He kissed her shoulder. Now sleep. I know you have gallery stuff tomorrow. She fell asleep in his arms, the best sleep she'd had in weeks, and woke to morning light and the smell of coffee. Adrian was already up, dressed in running clothes, 2 mugs steaming on her nightstand. You went out? Sarah asked groggily, accepting the coffee gratefully. Just to the place on the corner, figured I should make myself useful. He sat on the edge of the bed. I'm going for a run, then I thought maybe we could spend the day together, whatever you want to do. I have to go to the gallery for a few hours, exhibition prep. Can I come? You want to come to the gallery? Again, I like watching you work. Plus, I'm helpful for reaching high things. He flexed jokingly, and Sarah laughed. They spent the day at the gallery, working side by side in comfortable harmony. Adrian proved himself useful with a tape measure and level, helping Sarah make precise adjustments to wall placements. Jennifer popped in and out, giving Sarah significant looks whenever Adrian wasn't looking. That evening, they cooked dinner together in Sarah's tiny kitchen, a complicated pasta recipe that required coordination and resulted in more laughing than actual cooking. They ate on her couch again, watching a movie neither of them paid much attention to, too busy kissing. "I could get used to this," Adrian murmured against her lips. "Mediocre pasta and rom-coms, being with you, just being with you, doing nothing special." Sarah's chest felt tight. 2 more days. "Don't remind me," he pulled her closer. "Let's not think about it tonight, just be here now." So they were, present and together, blocking out the future and the inevitable goodbye, just existing in the moment. The next 2 days passed too quickly. They walked along the waterfront, visited the art museum, ate at Sarah's favorite restaurants. Adrian bought her a beautiful set of brushes from a specialty art store, watching carefully as she explained the differences between synthetic and natural bristles. Sarah dragged him to a bookstore and they spent 2 hours browsing, eventually leaving with a stack of novels they planned to read and discuss over their phone calls. Sunday morning arrived gray and drizzly, typical Seattle spring weather. Adrian's flight was at 2, which meant leaving her apartment by 11. They sat at her small kitchen table drinking coffee, neither wanting to acknowledge the time. 3 weeks, Adrian said finally. "Then you come to New York for a week. That's the plan, right?" "That's the plan." "The gallery will survive without me. Jennifer will probably throw a party. I'll make it worth the trip. Broadway shows, fancy restaurants, museums, until we can't stand any more. I just want time with you. The rest is bonus." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "We're going to make this work, Sarah. I know it's hard, but we'll figure it out." She nodded, not trusting her voice. The goodbyes were getting harder, not easier, and she wondered how long they could sustain this pattern of reunion and separation. At the airport, their goodbye was tender and bittersweet. Adrian held her close, breathing her in. "I'll call you tonight. You better. I want to hear about the terrible airplane food." "I fly private. The food is actually good." "Oh right, I forgot I'm dating someone fancy." She smiled up at him. "Have a safe flight. Don't make any billion-dollar decisions without calling me first." "Never." One last kiss, deep and promising. 3 weeks, Sarah, I'll be counting down." She watched him go through security, waited until he disappeared from view, then drove home with tears streaming down her face. This was worth it, she told herself. He was worth it. But it hurt every time. That evening, true to his word, Adrian called from his apartment in New York. "Made it home. The penthouse feels too big and too empty." "Tell me about it. Describe it to me." So he did, walking through his space with his phone, describing the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, the modern furniture and original artwork, the kitchen he rarely used because he was never home. "It's impressive but not very personal," he admitted. "I bought it 5 years ago because it made sense as an investment, but I never really made it a home. Show me your favorite spot." There was a pause, sounds of movement. "Okay, I'm here. It's the library. Smaller room, but it has the best light in the morning and I lined it with bookshelves. When I actually have time to read, this is where I come. I like that you have a library. I like that you're interested in my space. Most people just want to know what it cost." They talked for 2 hours, until Sarah was falling asleep on her couch and Adrian needed to prep for an early meeting. "Sleep well, beautiful. You too, talk tomorrow. Every day, I promise." The 3 weeks until Sarah's New York trip dragged and flew simultaneously. Work kept her busy, a constant stream of artist meetings and exhibition planning and administrative tasks. But every morning started with a text from Adrian. Every evening ended with a phone call that lasted until one of them couldn't keep their eyes open anymore. He told her about difficult board meetings and successful negotiations. She told him about a temperamental artist who demanded his pieces be lit with specific Kelvin temperature bulbs, and the collector who tried to haggle down prices. They talked about childhood memories and favorite books, and whether pancakes or waffles were superior breakfast foods. Waffles, Adrian insisted. The little squares hold the syrup better. But pancakes are fluffy and you can make them different flavors. We might have to break up over this. Please, you like me too much. Unfortunately true. Your terrible pancake opinions and all. The easy banter, the way they could talk about nothing and everything, made the distance bearable. Barely but bearable. Finally, the trip arrived. Sarah packed carefully, trying to bring outfits that would work for fancy dinners and casual days, feeling anxious about fitting into Adrian's New York life. What if she seemed too casual, too artsy, too Seattle? Jennifer drove her to the airport, ignoring Sarah's protests that she could take a car. I want to, plus I need to give you the protective best friend speech. Please don't. Too bad. Sarah, you're flying across the country for a guy you've been dating for 4 months, most of it long distance. That's big. So I need to say this. If he doesn't treat you like the queen you are every second of this trip, you call me and I'll book you a return flight immediately. He will. He does. Always. Good, but the offer stands. Jennifer pulled up to departures. Also, have amazing sex and tell me about it later. Jennifer, what? You're both adults. It's been 4 months of build-up. I'm just saying, enjoy it. Sarah was blushing as she grabbed her bag, but she was also laughing. I'll text you when I land. Have the best time. You deserve this. The flight was uneventful. 5 hours of anxious anticipation. Sarah tried to read one of the novels she and Adrian had picked out, but she couldn't focus, kept reading the same page over and over. Finally, they landed at JFK, and Sarah joined the crowd heading for baggage claim, scanning for Adrian. She spotted him before he saw her. He was standing near the arrivals area in jeans and a black t-shirt, hands in his pockets, looking like he'd stepped out of an advertisement for expensive watches or cologne. Her heart did its familiar flip, and then his eyes found her, and his entire face lit up. Sarah dropped her bag to hug him, and he lifted her off her feet, spinning slightly. You're here. You're actually here. Did you think I'd chicken out? No, but the last 3 weeks felt endless. I started to wonder if I'd imagined that you agreed to come. He set her down but didn't let go, just looked at her like he was memorizing her face. You're beautiful. I'm rumpled from a 5-hour flight. Still beautiful. He kissed her soft and sweet, ignoring the crowds flowing around them. Ready to see New York. Ready. Adrian had a car waiting, and they drove into Manhattan as the sun started setting, the city skyline emerging in gold and shadow. Sarah pressed her face to the window, taking it all in. She'd been to New York before, but seeing it through Adrian's eyes as his city felt different. His building was exactly as impressive as she'd imagined, all glass and steel and doormen in uniforms. They rode the elevator to the top floor, Adrian carrying her bag despite her protests. I want to. Besides, I'm showing off my strength. So manly. Exactly. The penthouse was stunning. Sarah walked through it slowly, taking in the soaring ceilings, the view that seemed to stretch forever, the perfect balance of modern design and comfort. Adrian, this is incredible. You want to see the best part? He led her to the library he'd described, and Sarah gasped. It was exactly as he'd said, lined floor to ceiling with books, a comfortable chair by the window positioned to catch the morning light. But what made her throat tight was the painting hanging above the fireplace. It was one of hers, a piece she'd done 2 years ago of the Olympic Mountains at sunset. How did you get this? She asked softly. I bought it from your gallery website before we even met in person. Back when we were just trading comments on Instagram and I was curious about your work." He came to stand behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist. "I loved it then. I love it more now knowing you." Sarah turned in his arms, emotions overwhelming. "You bought my painting." "I've bought 3 of your paintings. The other 2 are in my office. I'm your most dedicated collector." He smiled. "Also, I'm completely biased and think you're the best artist I've ever seen, but that's separate." She kissed him, pouring all her feelings into it. When they finally broke apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "Welcome to New York, Sarah Montgomery." "I'm really glad you're here." "Me too." They ordered dinner from Adrian's favorite Italian place, eating it at his dining table while he pointed out landmarks visible from his windows. Sarah peppered him with questions about the city, about his daily routines, hungry to understand his life here the way he'd learned hers in Seattle. After dinner, they sat on his couch, Sarah tucked against his side, both of them quiet. The energy between them had shifted, anticipatory and charged. They'd been building to this for months, phone calls and stolen weekends, and now they had a full week with no interruptions. "Sarah," Adrian said quietly, his hand tracing patterns on her arm. "Just so we're clear, you're sleeping in my room with me. But if you want your own space, I can set up the guest room." "I don't want my own space. I want to be with you." His arms tightened around her. "Good. That's what I want too." That night they finally crossed the line from dating to something more complete. Adrian was patient and attentive, making sure she felt comfortable and wanted. Sarah let herself be vulnerable in ways she never had before, trusting him with parts of herself she usually kept guarded. It was tender and intense, and somehow both new and familiar, like coming home. Afterward, lying in his arms in the darkness of his bedroom, Sarah felt something shift inside her. This was real. What they had was real and solid and worth fighting for, distance be damned. "You okay?" Adrian asked softly, his fingers trailing through her hair. More than okay, that was. She searched for words. "Perfect." "Yeah, it was." He kissed her temple. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." Her heart jumped. "Okay, I'm in love with you. I know it's only been 4 months and most of that has been phone calls and video chats, but I'm completely in love with you." "You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know." Sarah propped herself up to look at him, trying to see his face in the dim light filtering through the windows. "Adrian, I love you too. I have for weeks. I was just scared to say it." His smile was brilliant even in the darkness. "Yeah. Yeah, completely, terrifyingly in love with you." She kissed him. "What are we going to do about this distance?" "Whatever it takes. We'll make it work, Sarah. I promise you that." She believed him. The week in New York was everything Sarah had hoped for and more. Adrian had cleared his schedule as much as possible, only absolutely necessary meetings, giving them full days to explore the city together. They hit every major museum, Adrian patiently listening as Sarah explained techniques and influences, adding his own observations that showed his deep appreciation for art. They saw 2 Broadway shows, ate at restaurants ranging from Michelin-starred establishments to hole-in-the-wall pizza joints. Adrian swore served the best slices in the city. But Sarah's favorite moments were the quiet ones. Mornings in Adrian's library, both of them reading with coffee, feet tangled together on the couch. Evenings cooking together in his massive kitchen, making simple meals and talking about their days. Nights falling asleep wrapped around each other, learning how the other person slept. She met some of his friends, successful professionals who clearly adored Adrian and were curious about the woman who'd captured his attention. They were welcoming but also protective, and Sarah understood. Adrian was important to these people, and they wanted to make sure she wasn't using him for his money or connections. "They like you," Adrian assured her after a dinner with his college roommate and his wife. "Mark texted me that you're great and I should lock it down." Lock it down. His words, not mine, though I'm not opposed to the sentiment. He pulled her close as they walked through the warm spring evening. "Sarah, I know we haven't talked about the future beyond the next few visits, but I want you to know I'm serious about this, about us. I'm serious too. I love you, Adrian. That's not going to change when I get on a plane back to Seattle. Promise. Promise." On her last night in New York, Adrian took her to a rooftop restaurant with sweeping views of the city. They ate slowly, both aware that tomorrow meant goodbye again, neither wanting to acknowledge it. "Come back in 2 weeks," Adrian said over dessert. "I know that's aggressive, but I can't stand the thought of waiting a month. I can't. I have the benefit auction at the gallery, and I need to be there for setup and execution." Sarah hated disappointing him. "But you could come to Seattle the week after. Make it 3 weeks instead of 4. I'll make it work." He took her hand across the table. "I've been thinking about something. What if we set a regular schedule? First week of every month you come here, third week I come to Seattle. Build it into our routine so it's predictable. That's a lot of flying. I'm already flying constantly. At least this way it's for something that matters." He squeezed her hand. "Sarah, I want to build a life with you, even if that life involves frequent flyer miles and time zone calculations. I need you to know I'm committed to figuring this out. I know you are. I am too." She blinked back tears. "I just hate that it's so hard. Nothing worth having comes easy, right?" That's what they say. They also say long-distance relationships rarely work. We're not a statistic. We're us, and we're going to make it work because neither of us is willing to give this up. His intensity made her believe him. "Right, right," she smiled despite the tears. "We're going to make it work." They spent her last night making love slowly, savoring every touch, both trying to memorize the feeling of being together. Sarah fell asleep in Adrian's arms and woke to soft kisses on her shoulder. "Morning," he murmured. "I made coffee." "What time is it?" "Early." "Your flight's not until 2, but I wanted more time with you." He handed her a mug from the nightstand. "Thought we could have breakfast, then maybe walk through Central Park one more time before we have to head to the airport." Sarah sat up, accepting the coffee gratefully. "That sounds perfect." They took their time that morning, drawing out every moment. Breakfast was simple. Eggs and toast at the kitchen counter, but it felt significant. This was what a life together could look like, she thought. Quiet mornings and easy conversation, building a routine around each other. Central Park was beautiful in late spring, trees fully green, flowers blooming everywhere. They walked hand in hand, not talking much, just being together. At Bethesda Fountain, Adrian stopped and turned to face her. "I'm going to say something, and I want you to really hear me." He took both her hands. "Sarah, I know it's early. I know we're still figuring out logistics, but I can see a future with you. A real future. Marriage, kids if you want them, building a life together. I'm not asking you for any of that now, I'm just telling you that's where my head is. That's how serious I am about us." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Adrian, I see that too. It terrifies me, but I see it. I want it." "Good." He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "Then we keep fighting for this. We keep making it work until we can figure out how to be in the same place permanently." "How would that even work?" "Your company is based here. My gallery is in Seattle. I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out. Maybe I open a West Coast office and split my time. Maybe you open a second gallery location here. Maybe we find somewhere in between. We have options, Sarah. We just need time to explore them." She hugged him tightly, breathing in his scent, trying to memorize everything about this moment. "I love you so much. I love you too. More than I've ever loved anyone." The drive to the airport was quiet, both of them lost in thought. At departures, Adrian parked illegally and walked her inside, carrying her bag despite her protests that he didn't need to. "I absolutely need to," he said. "Every extra minute with you counts." At security, they held each other for a long time. Sarah felt tears on her cheeks and didn't care who saw. "3 weeks," she said into his chest. 3 weeks. And I'll call you tonight, tomorrow morning, every day until I see you again." He tilted her face up to kiss her. "I love you, Sarah Montgomery. Distance doesn't change that. I love you too." One more kiss, and then she forced herself to step back to grab her bag. "Thank you for this week. It was perfect. First of many, I promise." She watched him walk away, waited until he turned at the door to wave, then made herself go through security. On the plane, she looked through the photos on her phone from the week. Adrian laughing at a joke she'd made in the Met, both of them reflected in a gallery window. Him sleeping peacefully in his bed, morning light soft on his face. She'd meant what she'd told him. She could see a future with this man. Now they just had to build the bridge to get there. The next few months fell into a rhythm. Sarah flew to New York the first week of most months. Adrian came to Seattle the third week when he could manage it. They talked every day, sometimes multiple times, keeping each other updated on everything from major work developments to what they'd had for lunch. The time apart was hard, but the reunions were intense and joyful, both of them appreciating the time together more because they knew how fleeting it was. In July, Sarah met Adrian's mother, an elegant woman in her 60s who ran a charitable foundation and seemed initially skeptical of Sarah. But over lunch at an upscale Manhattan restaurant, Sarah held her own, talking about art education programs and her work with emerging artists. By the end of the meal, Margaret Parker was smiling warmly and inviting Sarah to a fundraiser gala the following month. "She liked you," Adrian said afterward, relieved. "I could tell." "How?" "She invited you to her gala. She only does that with people she approves of." He kissed her. "Not that I needed her approval, but it's nice to have." In August, Adrian flew to Seattle for Sarah's birthday. He tried to plan something elaborate, but she'd requested something simple, just the two of them. They rented a cabin in the San Juan Islands for the weekend, spending 3 days hiking, cooking meals together, and making love with the sound of the ocean through the open windows. "Best birthday ever," Sarah said on their last evening, curled up with Adrian on the cabin's deck watching the sunset. "Yeah, better than your 21st. I spent my 21st working a double shift at a restaurant and came home to ramen noodles. So yes, significantly better." She smiled up at him. "Thank you for this, for making it special." "Everything's special with you." He kissed her hair. "Sarah, I've been thinking, what if you moved in with me? Not permanently necessarily, but kept clothes and things at my place so it feels more like home when you visit. I want you to be comfortable there, not feel like a guest." "I'd like that. And you could do the same at my place, although my apartment is much less impressive." "I love your apartment. It's cozy and full of personality, unlike my sterile penthouse. Your penthouse is beautiful." "It's a showpiece. I want to turn it into a home, our home, even if it's part-time for now." He pulled her closer. "I'm also thinking about what I said before about restructuring my schedule. I've been working with my executive team on succession planning, training up my VP so he can handle more of the day-to-day operations." Sarah sat up to look at him. "Adrian, are you sure? You've worked so hard to build the company to where it is. And now I want to work on building a life. The company will be fine without me micromanaging every decision. I've created strong systems and hired good people. It's time I trusted them to do their jobs while I focus on what actually makes me happy." He cupped her face. "You make me happy, Sarah. Happier than any business deal or successful quarter ever has." Her throat felt tight. "I don't want you to resent me someday for pulling you away from your work. You're not pulling me away from anything. You're giving me something to move toward. There's a difference." He kissed her softly. "Besides, I'm not abandoning the company. I'm just changing my role, stepping back from some of the constant travel and oversight. I'll still be CEO, still be involved in major decisions, just not burning myself out trying to be everywhere at once." "When would this happen?" "I'm thinking start of next year. That gives me 6 months to train up leadership, put proper systems in place, make sure everything's stable. Then I can start spending real time in Seattle, not just long weekends. Maybe 2 weeks a month to start." Sarah felt hope and fear tangling in her chest. This was huge, the kind of commitment that meant they were really doing this, building toward a future together. "And you're sure about me, about us?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Adrian's eyes were intense, certain. "Sarah, I want to marry you eventually. I want to wake up next to you every day. I want to build a life where we're not constantly saying goodbye. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen, including restructuring my entire professional life." "I want that too," Sarah whispered. "All of it. With you." They sealed it with a kiss, the sunset blazing around them, and Sarah felt something settle deep in her chest. This was real. They were going to make this work. The fall was intense for both of them. Adrian was laying groundwork for his restructuring, endless meetings with board members and executives, carefully positioning the changes so the company would continue thriving without his constant presence. Sarah was preparing for the gallery's biggest exhibition yet, a retrospective of a famous Pacific Northwest artist that required coordinating loans from museums across the country. Their visits continued, though occasionally one of them had to cancel at the last minute due to work emergencies. Those were the hardest times, when they'd been counting down to seeing each other and suddenly had to wait another week or two. But they got through it, supporting each other through phone calls and video chats, counting down to the next reunion. In October, Sarah flew to New York for a long weekend and Adrian proposed. Not with fanfare or a public display, but quietly in his apartment, both of them in pajamas after a lazy Sunday morning. He'd simply taken her hand and said, "Marry me, Sarah. Let's stop planning someday and start planning our actual future." The ring was perfect, a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, distinctive and beautiful without being ostentatious. Sarah said yes through happy tears, and they spent the rest of the day in bed celebrating, making love and planning and laughing about how they'd tell their families. "My mother is going to say she knew from the moment she met you," Adrian predicted. "Jennifer is going to demand all the details and then cry about how romantic it is." "When should we actually get married?" Sarah considered. "Spring. That gives us 6 months to plan and to figure out the logistics of actually combining our lives. Spring in Seattle, if you want. Or we could do something smaller, just us and close family somewhere beautiful." "I just want you. Everything else is details." He kissed her ring finger. "Mrs. Parker, Sarah Parker, how does that sound? Different, good different," she smiled. "I could hyphenate, Sarah Montgomery Parker." "Whatever makes you happy. I just want you to be my wife." They called their families that evening. Sarah's mother cried happy tears and demanded to know everything. Adrian's mother expressed her delight and immediately started offering suggestions about venues and planners. Jennifer screamed so loudly Adrian had to pull the phone away from his ear. "I'm so happy for you," Jennifer said when she'd calmed down. "He's perfect for you, Sarah. And you deserve this happiness." That night, lying in Adrian's arms, Sarah felt overwhelmingly grateful. 6 months ago she'd been single, focused solely on her career, convinced long distance could never work. Now she was engaged to an incredible man, planning a future that somehow incorporated both their lives and ambitions. "What are you thinking?" Adrian asked softly. "That I can't believe this is my life, that I'm the luckiest person alive. That's my line." He pulled her closer. "Sarah, I need you to know something. Everything I'm changing with the company, I do that anyway. You've shown me what life can be beyond work. But even if you'd said no, even if we hadn't met, I was burning out. You gave me a reason to change, but you didn't force the change. Why are you telling me this now? Because I never want you to feel guilty about my choices. I'm restructuring my role because I want to, because it's the right decision for my mental health and my life. You're the catalyst, but you're not the cause. Does that make sense?" It did, and it relieved a worry Sarah hadn't quite articulated even to herself. "Thank you for saying that. Always honest with you. That's the deal." They spent the next months planning both a wedding and their combined future. Adrian's restructuring took effect in January, right on schedule. He promoted his VP to President and Chief Operating Officer, maintaining his position as CEO, but delegating most of the daily operational decisions. His travel schedule immediately cut in half, and he started spending 2 weeks a month in Seattle, working remotely and flying back to New York only for essential meetings. Sarah couldn't quite believe it at first, having Adrian around so consistently. He got a membership at a Seattle gym, found his favorite coffee shop near the gallery, became a fixture in her daily life rather than a special occasion. They fell into domestic routines, learning each other's quirks and habits in ways that phone calls had never revealed. "You reorganized the dishwasher after I load it," Sarah accused one morning, catching him rearranging plates. "You load it wrong. There's a system for optimal water flow." "You're ridiculous. You love me anyway." He kissed her nose. "Admit it." She did love him, loved him more for being present, for choosing to reshape his life to be with her. In February, she closed the gallery for a week and flew to New York so they could apartment hunt together. Adrian wanted a place that felt like theirs, not just his sterile bachelor pad. They found a beautiful townhouse in Brooklyn with exposed brick and huge windows, close to parks and museums. 3 bedrooms, one of which could be Sarah's art studio, another a home office for Adrian, a kitchen built for actual cooking. A backyard garden that surprised them both with how much they wanted it. "This is the one," Sarah said, standing in the light-filled living room. "Yeah." Adrian came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You can see us here. I can see us everywhere, but yes, especially here." She turned to kiss him. "Let's make an offer." They got the house, closing in March, a month before their wedding. The wedding itself was small and perfect, held at a beautiful venue on the Seattle waterfront with 50 of their closest friends and family. Sarah wore a simple, elegant dress. Adrian looked impossibly handsome in his suit, and when they said their vows, they both cried. "I promise to love you across any distance," Adrian said, voice thick with emotion. "To choose you every day, no matter how many time zones separate us. To build a life that honors both our dreams." "I promise to trust you," Sarah responded, tears streaming down her face. "To believe in us even when it's hard, to create a home wherever we are together." When the officiant pronounced them married, they kissed to thunderous applause, and Sarah felt something click into place. This was her life now. This incredible man was her husband, and they'd fought through distance and logistics to get here. The reception was full of laughter and dancing. Adrian's mother welcomed Sarah officially into the family with a warm hug. Sarah's mother cornered Adrian and made him promise to take care of her daughter, which he did earnestly. Jennifer gave a speech that made everyone laugh and cry in equal measure. "To Sarah and Adrian," she concluded, raising her glass. who proved that distance means nothing when you love someone enough to fight for them. May your marriage be filled with less time apart and more nights falling asleep together. They honeymooned in Italy for 2 weeks, losing themselves in art and food and each other. Walking through the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Sarah watched Adrian examine a Botticelli and felt overwhelming love for this man who appreciated beauty, who'd flown thousands of miles repeatedly just to be with her. "What?" Adrian asked, catching her staring. "Just thinking how lucky I am. How crazy it is that a random Instagram comment led to this. Best comment I ever made." He took her hand, lacing their fingers together. "You know what the weirdest part is? The distance. It should have killed this before it started, but instead it made us actually build something real. We couldn't rely on physical chemistry or convenience. We had to actually connect, actually choose each other every single day." "The miles brought us closer," Sarah said softly. "Exactly. Who would have thought long distance could be a strength instead of a weakness?" Back in Seattle after the honeymoon, they settled into married life. Adrian kept his schedule of 2 weeks in Seattle, 2 in New York, but now Sarah started coming with him more often, Jennifer handling the gallery during her absences. They split their time between cities, slowly combining their lives in practical ways. Sarah's paintings hung in their Brooklyn townhouse alongside Adrian's collection of photography. His books mingled with hers on the shelves. They learned to cook together, argued about decorating choices, fell asleep wrapped around each other every night they were together. The goodbyes didn't disappear entirely. Adrian still had to travel occasionally to other cities for business, and sometimes Sarah needed to be in Seattle when he was in New York. But they'd learned how to handle the distance, had built a foundation strong enough to withstand temporary separation. A year after their wedding, Sarah opened a second gallery location in New York. It was smaller than the Seattle space, but carefully curated, focusing on emerging artists from both coasts. Adrian helped with the business planning, using his expertise to make sure the expansion was financially sound. The opening night was packed, collectors and critics mingling under Sarah's careful curation. "You did it," Adrian said, watching her work the room. "Both cities making it work." "We did it," Sarah corrected. "I couldn't have done any of this without you." "Partners," he agreed, kissing her temple. "In everything." 2 years after their wedding, Sarah got pregnant. It was planned and wanted, but still a shock when the test came back positive. She told Adrian over dinner at their favorite Seattle restaurant, sliding the test across the table between the appetizers and entrees. He stared at it for a solid 10 seconds before his face broke into the biggest smile she'd ever seen. "Really? We're really having a baby. We're really having a baby." Adrian came around the table to hug her, lifting her slightly off her chair. Other diners looked over, but Sarah didn't care, too busy laughing and crying at the same time. "I love you," he said into her hair. "So much. We're going to be parents." The pregnancy was smooth, and they prepared eagerly. They converted the third bedroom in the Brooklyn townhouse into a nursery, painting it soft yellow and filling it with books and toys. Adrian cut his travel even more, refusing to be away from Sarah for more than a few days at a time. He came to every doctor's appointment, asked endless questions, read every parenting book he could find. "You're going to be an amazing dad," Sarah told him one night, watching him assemble a crib with intense concentration. "I hope so. I want to do this right. Give our kid everything they need. Love. That's what they'll need most. Everything else we'll figure out. They'll have so much love. From both of us." Their daughter was born on a snowy February morning, 8 pounds of perfect tiny human that made both Sarah and Adrian cry when they first held her. They named her Emma after Sarah's grandmother, and she had Adrian's dark hair and Sarah's blue eyes. "Hi, Emma," Adrian whispered, holding his daughter for the first time with tears streaming down his face. "I'm your dad. I've been waiting to meet you." Sarah watched them together, her husband and her daughter, and felt her heart might burst from happiness. This was everything she'd never known she wanted, this family they'd built despite distance and logistics, and every obstacle that should have kept them apart. Over the next year, they settled into parenting. Adrian worked from home as much as possible, taking calls during Emma's nap times, scheduling meetings around the baby's routines. Sarah brought Emma to the galleries, created a small play area in her Seattle office where their daughter could be nearby while she worked. They tag-teamed midnight feedings and diaper changes, figuring out this new chapter together. Emma's first birthday party was held at their Brooklyn townhouse, both sets of grandparents flying in, Jennifer making the trip from Seattle. Sarah watched Adrian hold their daughter, helping her smash into her birthday cake, and felt profound gratitude for the journey that had brought them here. "What are you thinking?" Jennifer asked, coming to stand beside her. "That everything worked out, we made it work." "You did. Against all odds, you made the distance work until you didn't need distance anymore." Jennifer smiled. "I'm proud of you. You took a crazy chance on a long-distance relationship with a billionaire you'd barely met, and you built this incredible life. He took the same chance. We both did. And look what you created." Jennifer gestured to the scene before them, Adrian and Emma covered in frosting, both laughing. "That's love, Sarah. Real, lasting, fought for love." That night, after the party had ended and Emma was asleep in her crib, Sarah and Adrian collapsed onto their couch. "Successful first birthday," Adrian said, pulling Sarah against his side. "Very successful. Although we'll be cleaning frosting off surfaces for days. Worth it. Did you see her face when everyone sang? Pure joy." He kissed Sarah's hair. "I've been thinking about something." "Should I be worried?" "No, nothing bad. I've been thinking about stepping down as CEO entirely. Transitioning to chairman of the board, advisory role only. Let someone else run the day-to-day operations." Sarah sat up to look at him. "That's huge. Are you sure?" "I'm sure. I've been CEO for 7 years now. The company is stable, thriving even. I've trained up excellent leadership. And I want more time with you and Emma. I want to be present for her childhood, not constantly flying off to meetings. I want to pick her up from school someday, coach her soccer team if she wants to play, just be around." "What would you do with all that time?" "Spend it with my family. Maybe do some angel investing, mentor young entrepreneurs. I've been thinking about starting a foundation focused on arts education, something that combines your passion and my business skills." He took her hand. "I want the next chapter of my life to be about building something different. Not wealth or influence, but meaning. With you." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "I love you so much, and yes, I think you should do it. If it's what you want, truly want, then you should absolutely do it. It is. I've never been more certain of anything except marrying you." He pulled her close. "We've come a long way from those early phone calls, haven't we?" "Miles and miles," Sarah agreed, thinking about all the actual miles they'd traveled to be together, all the flights and goodbyes and reunions. "But you were right all along." "About what?" "The distance. It didn't break us. It made us stronger. We learned how to actually choose each other every single day before we had the luxury of proximity. That foundation, it's unshakable now. Best foundation I ever built." Adrian kissed her, slow and sweet. "And the best part? We get the rest of our lives to keep building on it." They sat together in the quiet evening, their daughter sleeping peacefully down the hall, their life stretching out before them full of possibility. The journey hadn't been easy. those long months of distance and logistics and faith that they could make it work. But they had made it work, had built something real and lasting from phone calls and video chats and determination to not let miles define them. Sarah thought about that first phone call, both of them nervous and curious, not knowing where it would lead. If someone had told her then that she'd end up married to Adrian, mother to his child, building a life across two cities that somehow felt like one shared home, she wouldn't have believed it. It had seemed too impossible, too complicated, too much to overcome. But love, real love, made impossible things possible. It bridged distance and overcame obstacles and turned two separate lives into one shared story. And their story, Sarah thought as Adrian's arms tightened around her, was only just beginning. They had years ahead of them, decades of mornings waking up together and evenings coming home to each other. They had Emma to raise, maybe more children if they decided they wanted them. They had galleries to run and foundations to start and a whole life to keep building together. The distance had brought them closer in the end, teaching them what really mattered. Not convenience or proximity, but choice. Every day choosing each other, choosing love, choosing to do the hard work of building something lasting. And now, finally, they didn't have to choose across miles anymore. They just had to choose each other, and that was the easiest choice Sarah had ever made. "I love you," she whispered into the quiet evening. "I love you too," Adrian responded, holding her close. "Always will. No distance could ever change that." And Sarah believed him, because they'd already proven it true. The miles had only made their love stronger, their foundation more solid, their commitment more certain. They were partners, husband and wife, parents, best friends. They were everything to each other, and distance had never stood a chance against that. In the nursery down the hall, Emma stirred in her sleep, and Sarah heard Adrian's breath catch, both of them listening to make sure their daughter was okay. When she settled back into quiet breathing, they relaxed again, smiling at their shared parental vigilance. This was their life now, full and rich and exactly what they'd both been searching for without knowing it. And it had all started with a random Instagram comment, a phone call that lasted too long, and the courage to believe that sometimes the best things in life are worth traveling for, fighting for, choosing over and over again despite every logical reason not to. The distance had taught them that. And in teaching them, it had brought them to this moment, this life, this love that would last forever.